Hey, what's going on? It's your boy, Robert Wiseman. Hey, listen real quick before we jump in to this episode of the Dealer Playbook podcast. I got something I want to hip you on from my man, Michael Cirillo, and co-host. He has, as you're probably aware of, a book coming out, Don't Wait, Dominate. This thing is killer for anybody that's looking to really step it up when it comes to your digital marketing. Anyways, you can get 2 free chapters, advanced chapters on this book. Just go to thedealerplaybook.com/dominate and get your hands on those now. Now on to the show.
This is Joe Pulizzi with the Content Marketing Institute, and you are listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
You're dialed in to the Dealer Playbook Podcast, where it's all about winning auto dealer strategies that deliver proven results. And now your hosts, Robert Wiseman and Michael Cirillo.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Dealer Playbook Podcast. I am Robert Wiseman, and here is where every week in and week out, we are having conversations with, elite best-selling authors, elite coaches, experts, trainers, high-level sales professionals, CEOs, you name it, where we're just helping you. Our goal is to just help you crush it in today's market in automotive sales. Again, this is Robert Wiseman. Probably wondering where Michael Cirillo is. He's unable to be here for this session. So you got just me this time. So hope you can hang on. Anyway, shout out to Michael. He's up there in Calgary at the driving sales event that's going up there. He spoke there, I believe, or sometime yesterday. I've been keeping up with him and Brett Weiss and my man Glenn Posh up there running around. But again, shout out to him. Sorry he couldn't be here. He really wish he was, because we got a good one for you today. I hope everybody's, summer 2015 is going super epic. It's definitely been scorching out here where I live. But here we go. Let's dive into who we have for you today. Today's guest is the founder of Content Marketing Institute. It's the the top dog for education and training for, all sizes of businesses, organizations, enterprises for content marketing. He also includes the world's largest content marketing event, and that's called Content Marketing World. Also, he's the author of a great book I do recommend getting that I own the book, and then also the audio book. Love the audio because it's the author reading it, and that just adds so much value to me. It's called Epic Content Marketing. He has a new book coming out in September 2015. He said it's going to be perfect for the sales professional, the automotive-preneur. It's called Content Inc. Content Inc. is also the name of the podcast you need to go check out today on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Download. It's also called Content Inc., and it is Joe Pulizzi. Now, Joe Pulizzi is the man when it comes to content marketing. He's been doing it for a long time. I know this is something that, we've had some episodes touching on this, but this guy is the boss when it comes to this stuff. So I was really excited that he agreed to sit down. It's very important. This is easy thing he talks a lot from a salesperson standpoint in this session. So I think you listen in, I know the majority of you are sales pros. This is really gonna hit you. He gives you some real actionable stuff. So if it's all the same with you guys, we're gonna dive right into this right now with Joe Pulizzi. Here we go. Mr. Joe Pulizzi, man, thank you so much for taking time to sit down today, brother.
Robert, I always make time for you. It's all good.
Oh,
I love talking about this stuff, so I'm glad you had me on. This is great.
Awesome, man. No problem. Okay, so but pre-show, I guess you could say, Joe and I were where I was bouncing some ideas off of him and vice versa for our topic, because he can go so many ways. And since, the majority of you listening are more so the frontline sales professional, which I can definitely relate with, Joe has some great insights and information on, just individual salespeople, how they can really position themselves as an expert through, the digital age. Right, Joe?
Well, I mean, you might not even know my background, but I actually started in sales. So, I mean, I used to sell glasses at a lens crafters type place called Lens Lab. And then I used to sell, when I was working at my old university, I used to sell to the alumni directly for funding and donations. And then when I got into publishing, I was selling advertising, and then I was selling all kinds of marketing packages. So I've sold for a long, long time. I'm probably more of a salesperson than a marketing person, but I hate cold calls. Absolutely hate them. I can't stand them. It just doesn't feel right to me. So that as I've been progressing with this whole thing, and what we can talk about the idea of content marketing, but really that's it. I wanted the leads to come to me, and I wanted to position myself online in such a way where I would never have to call out and actually try to get business, that we would just be overflowing with leads and opportunities. And that's why I'm such a believer in this whole idea of content marketing, to find where you can really be the leading expert in the world in something, and to build an audience. And that's the whole idea. So I think for the people listening, and we can go into some details about how to do that, but if I'm a salesperson today, all I'm thinking about is, how do I build an audience around a particular niche that ultimately I will have more and more leads and opportunities so that I can make more money. I mean, as the salesperson, we want to make more money. I don't just want to create content because I think I should, or I should have a Facebook or Twitter page or blog. I don't care about any of that. Ultimately, we want to make a living for our family. We want to make an impact in the world. And I think by doing that, we really need to focus, build a plan, focus, and then actually create an audience.
Yep. So in one of my favorite movies, Gladiator, or Proximo says to Maximus, to win your freedom, you must win the crowd. Freedom being maybe financial freedom, success, whatever.
I love that analogy.
Crowd, right?
So, I never thought about that. I'll have to use that and give you credit sometime. I love that because he does. You're right. He wins the audience, and everything becomes, and actually what happens is then they can't touch him, right? Mm-hmm. Because if then there'll be a revolt. So he actually gains a lot of power because he does build the audience.
Same scenario. I mean, same picture. All right. So here, let's go. I'm going to throw this one at you. So when you say like in that niche detail, so let's think, okay, I know that you haven't worked in a dealership, but I know a guy like you's probably bought multiple cars. Sure. So you let's think of that niche for a salesperson. Like when you say that, give some examples of something that can get their juices flowing on what their niche should be.
Well, the first thing is, when we say create content, by the way, you can create content in multiple ways. It could be a podcast like you and I are on right now. It could be, regular writing on a blog. It could be an email newsletter. It could be videos. I think the first thing you want to think of is two things. One, where is my passion? As a salesperson, what am I really passionate about? Because if you're going to do this, you have to be passionate about it because you have to do it consistently. You can't just do once every other week and, maybe I'll get the newsletter out at this point, not this point, or do the podcast, whichever and whenever. As a podcast producer, you have to deliver on time consistently, and that's how you build an audience. So the first thing is, what are you really passionate about that has to do with what you sell? So, I mean, I used to sell... I sold blogging services to HVAC dealers. So it's a little bit similar. So they would be selling, train equipment or carrier equipment. Mm-hmm. And we were like, well, how, it's a one-time purchase for the most part, although they have ongoing service. And I know service is important, but if you're selling a car, if you're a salesperson of some kind, you're probably at the point where you might be selling, one every 3-4 years to somebody. And you're really looking for that one-off purchase. And the same thing is in an HVAC. So you're trying to think of, well, what kind of information can I distribute that is relevant to them? They don't care about the product itself. I mean, think about that. That's really important. They really don't care. They care about other things like comfort, like getting around, my family. They have other pain points. And that's what's important to think about, because when a lot of businesses and salespeople, they start content marketing strategies, they start talking about the product. but really your customers don't care about the product. We have to dig deeper. Yes, we have a passion, but we have to find out what the pain point is for the customer. And in this HVAC scenario, what we found out is they really did care about saving money on their energy. That was really important. And that's where we talked about, hey, as a salesperson, how do you position yourself as an expert in energy savings so that they will actually open the email, they will actually listen to the podcast, they will, and the easy thing to do, what I love, this is a great strategy, especially for if you're like a solo salesperson, you have a group of salespeople, is just list all the questions that your customers ask you on an ongoing basis. And if you do this, if you're a good salesperson, you could probably list realistically 50 in a fairly short period of time. That's a really good way for you to measure what your customers are caring about, what's really important to them, from a not necessarily a feature benefit standpoint, but from here's my pain points, and then that will sort of figure if they're all around cost savings, or they're all around comfort, or it's around luxury
experience, the buying experience, because that's a good one. Like just explaining to people, that's something that, I mentioned a while ago that I really wish I would have done this, that to me it's a no-brainer and so easy. It's just explain a little bit, like a quick video on why I'm going up to my manager's desk, why I have to go here, to get this numbers, what's going on when this really happens, like that puts some ease, and that's some content nobody else is making, but people want to know that stuff.
Well, what you just said is the key, because what we see in a lot of scenarios in your industry and the industries that I cover is that if you look at the content that you create, it could have been created by anybody else. It's not really a differentiated story. You could find it 100 different places on the web. So who cares? And that's exactly right. It's almost a who cares scenario. So we have to find, and I always ask this question, I think this is a good question to ask. Let's say all the content that you create as a salesperson, as a dealer, whatever the case is, what if it was immediately obliterated from the planet? So all the information that you're sending out to your customers was gone. Would your customers and prospects actually miss it? Would they throw a party that they're not getting bombarded by your content anymore? Or would they really say, hey, where's that e-newsletter? Where's that podcast? That's what you have to think about, because if you're not on the other side where they're going to miss your content, that you're really adding to the utility of their day, you're adding to their life in some way, that's what we have to figure out. And to your point, you have to figure out an area that nobody else is covering. We call that a content gap. What's a content gap? And that if you talk to enough customers as a really good salesperson, you should know that. And that's why we want to do that exercise and just start writing down those questions.
So out of those questions, you should be able to, at least get a good idea of where your niche should be. So so dissect it. We get 50 questions. So let's just give me a scenario then on, it'd be the salesperson that's in, like if it's the time save, if it's find out it's the time of purchasing, or it's the just keeping up with all of the the features in the vehicle. What would be the next move for the salesperson from that point?
Well, there's two things too that I would look at. That's one. Yes, one exercise is this. You could say, oh, this is a cost issue. So you could have a whole thing about saving money. That's some things that have to do with cars, some things that have nothing to do with cars. It could be about that experience. But if you're going to that point, that might be too close to the buying decision-making process. I'm almost going, go back a little bit more and really figure out what are some of the things they're doing. Are your customers mostly families? Do they have kids? So as they're asking you, hey, do you have enough room? I'm looking for an SUV. You need to go a step further with that and say, okay, well, who's your real customer? And that's a real key consideration, because if you're a salesperson, you probably sell to similar people more than not. So if you're selling luxury cars, are you selling to business people that are traveling all the time that really like comfort and luxury, or are you selling to soccer moms? I don't know. Figure that out, and then you can go the next step. Because what I want you to figure out with your content marketing strategy is, what's the kind of content you can send out that has nothing to do with cars? Like what can you do to build that relationship ongoing, that they're just going to rely on you? And yes, there is some kind of you can make the connection, but I'll tell you what I get from, this is not a car dealer, but it's from a real estate person. The real estate person always sends us information about local events. So basically every week I'll get, and here's local events in your area. I think that's really helpful. I mean, it has nothing to do with selling a house, but that keeps top of mind because every week I kind of look for that because I want to know what current events are going on, and they curate all of them going on, knowing that, hey, I'm in this area. I care about this area because I decided to buy a house. They have that data. And so that I'm more apt to think about that person next time because I've opened their e-newsletter for the last 52 weeks.
And think of how long it took for them to put that together.
Actually, not,
not at all.
Not long. Yeah, not long. Once you get the process, it's okay. Here's where I'm going to look for this kind of information. You curate together. You create the e-newsletter. That is a reliable, credible source for me for that kind of information. And it's a real estate person. So could you do the same thing as a car salesman? I think you absolutely could. Mm-hmm. It could be events. It could be, events coming to the city. It could be, here's different ways to save time around the house. Here's maybe 10 things that you need to check on every week with your car. I mean, it could be car related. Mm-hmm. But I would almost think about, that's why we go back to the questions, Robert, and we think about, well, what are they not getting now that you can fill a gap and give them and become that like leading local source? So I just don't want you to, and you're right, when you went to the question you went to and you said, but I don't want it doesn't have to necessarily be car focused or what you sell. It could be something about what's a really important need for the customers you're targeting.
Yeah. And then just through that relationship alone, it's likely that, even though you're not even communicating to them much about buying cars from them, they're most likely going to think about you when it's time.
Be helpful. Yeah. Just think about it. And Jay Baer, as you and I know Jay, mm-hmm. author of a great book called Utility. He's got some great stories in there, especially for salespeople, saying, hey, you just be useful. Just be useful to people ongoing. There's a great story he's got in his book called about Taxi Mike. And Taxi Mike, what he does is he passes them out in all the local establishments, and it's basically a curated list with Taxi Mike's information of all the best places to go to. Here's where you need to go to eat. Here's where you need to go for live entertainment. Here's what you need to go for karaoke. And you know who takes them? Everyone. So when they're going around bar hopping, and you know what? And when they need a ride, who do they call? Taxi Mike.
Absolutely.
And that's so simple. It is literally an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper printed out, and he updates it every other month. It's not that hard to do, but sometimes we don't think of it this way. I get another one from, this is another real estate person that sends a monthly recipe. So you just think about it. I don't know if that's a great example, but it's
But if that's example. Relevant, if she's like the divorcee lady or the some kind of women's representative, that's probably a great and men cook as well, but
it's interesting. We talked about HVAC before, and when I first got into the HVAC heating and air conditioning industry, and I was in it for like 5 years doing multiple different things. But as you learn, the person that makes the ultimate buying decision in the household is the woman. Yeah. So you think it's the guy. It's not the guy. It's the woman for the most part. So that's where you think, if you really think about who is your buyer. And as a great salesperson, you should really be thinking about the ultimate buyer. Is it the guy that comes into the store? Is it the woman? What are they thinking about? What's their needs? How do I get their attention before they walk in? Because as they walk in, they already have 90% of their information. They're armed. They know what kind of car they want. So you've got to get them earlier in the process before they even contact you. And that's where you think about it this way. If you create a really good piece of content that's shareable, that's how you're going to reach your new prospects. If it's inherently shareable, like let's say it's that event type of thing. Oh my gosh, they're going to share it with all their friends. Did you see this event? We should go to this. Who's this from? You start. So it's very hard to just focus on the feature and benefit type stuff because nobody's going to share that. So figure out what people are going to share.
Yeah, no, and like you said, that's curated. So really, that's just going out and gathering the information and putting it together.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't have to be. You're right, Robert. It doesn't have to be original. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. But I think the key is finding out, where can you be a little bit of an expert over something by doing something a little bit different as part of your processes that they're not getting right now.
So it being on a local level too, do you think that makes it, obviously makes it even a little bit easier maybe to obtain, some eyeballs in your local market if you're doing the right stuff?
Well, to that point, I would say if you look at it, the more you can niche down your audience, the easier it is to get attention. So I'll give you a quick example because I think it'll make the case you're trying to make. Let's look at, this is about 6 months ago, there was a pet supply store that said, hey, I want to start a blog about all pet supplies and we're going to do all these kind of reviews and it's going to be great. And I said, okay, that's great. You're going to do a pet supplies blog. Do you know that you're competing with Petco and PetSmart that have multi-billion-dollar budgets? Are you really going to go and you're going to create the same content as they're creating and they're going to out-distribute you and out-budget you? You can't do it. I said, you're already starting off and you've lost the battle. You haven't even started yet. And then we started to think about, okay, well, who's the real audience for a key portion, key type of product that they want to sell? And what we found out is they had a lot of products for people that like to travel with their pets in cars or RVs. And that's really interesting because it's a different audience, and that audience has very particular needs, and they were higher margin products. So they said, oh, well, maybe we should focus on doing the review just for that particular audience. I said, now you're talking. Now you've got something to differentiate. So to your point, not only are we talking about local, but not only talk about, okay, who is the buyer? What are their pain points? Is it family? Is it not? What keeps them up at night? And maybe it's a location, or maybe it's the type of thing ultimately they buy, or the type, or how much budget they would have for a car. So the more you can get away from, hey, I'm just going to target people in my local area, which you're not going to be very successful with, to, hey, I'm going to target this person with this need that's about this age that likes to do these kinds of things, that goes to these kind of stores, because you can get all this data pretty easily if you just think about it and talk to your customers. And then you've got a real defined audience, and you could say, this is what this audience would really truly appreciate, and then add on top of the fact that it's a local group. They have local needs about where they live and their schools and the other events going on and their local environment and those types of things. So absolutely, the more you can get niche, the better. I just don't see a lot of salespeople do that because you focus on, I want as many as possible. No, you really don't. With your content, you don't want to do that. You want the right ones, and you want the ones with the best opportunity for you to have profitable business objectives. So focus on, maybe it's your best possible customers or most likely customers. Or maybe that's the low-hanging fruit that you can build a content marketing strategy on the back of.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in this market, particularly when it comes to content marketing done, really,
because nobody's doing it.
Exactly.
Do you see a lot of dealers that are really doing this outside? I mean, I see most of them are doing, they're getting the leads from a lot of the online places. They come through the stores. I don't see a lot of differentiation. I mean, maybe you're seeing some examples, but I'm just talking as a consumer. A consumer, I don't.
Now, is there some out there? For sure, there's some people out there doing a really good job, but the majority are not. And it seems like that, and it's been like this forever, is that the marketing budget is dedicated to just attracting like the in-market people, now. It's not, there's no long game in it.
Yeah, that I would agree with. I mean, the most that I see is if I get like a Mazda or a Ford magazine, it'll be, from the dealer, and they'll use the co-op dollars to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a national, international program, and then they get it down to the individual local areas, and then maybe they'll put the salesperson's name on there that's assigned to you.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't see a lot of that going on. But what I would love, I mean, some of this is really long tail, right? Because if you think about the fact that if I just buy a car, what is it? Is it another 3 years, 4 years, maybe?
Yeah, depending.
So another 3. But what if you played that? What if you started now, and wouldn't it just think how much easier it would be to say, look, I want to create a relationship through some kind of content, through some kind of information for the next 3 years, I wonder what the difference would be. I bet you it would be a significant difference about people that would be returning back when loyalty is a rarity in that business.
Well, and another thing too is, and this is what I saw with my experiences, not only are they going to come back, and maybe there's more than one car in the house, driver in the household for second. The average household probably has like over 2 drivers. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, but I would assume then also, like, when people are in the market for a car, they're always at work or somewhere saying, man, I'm in the market for a new car. So if their coworkers or they hear anybody that's in the market for a car, they're probably even going to recommend you at that. You know,
I see, and I see it. I don't know about you, but I see it on Facebook all the time. Hey, I'm thinking about this kind of car. I'm thinking about a sedan. I'm looking for a good dealer. Any recommendations? Yep. I see it all the time. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you can build an ongoing relationship where they know, like, and trust you a little bit more than the average, because, you know, the reputations in that business aren't as good as what they probably should be. So I think it's easier to stand out if you have a longer view to it, and you're not going to say, hey, I need to, and I know how it is. Hey, I got to hit my budget this quarter. Got to hit my quota. Totally understand that. But if we take a longer term view of it, that's where we can be really successful.
Absolutely. And it's just like, it's easy to do, but it's hard work to get to do it. Does that make sense? Like once you do the work, it's going to be you'll see results. It'll start flowing.
If you say, Joe, why do these programs not work for salespeople or small businesses? It's not usually about the quality of content. Believe it or not, it's usually because it's inconsistent or it stops. That's the number one reason every time, because you have to do the work.
Just stick it out. Consistency. That's a good point. Okay, so last thing before we get ready to wrap this up, just quick tip for that person in there, because I hear this a lot from salespeople, is just like creating the content. They're not confident with like their writing skills. Maybe they're a little weird on video. If they do make a video, they're concerned that it just looks like a, you know, super low quality video. What can you give them to help them with that?
Well, I think the first thing would be focus on telling a different story. That regardless, and I'll get to your question specifically, but I get so concerned that we're just creating content that nobody cares about. So create some stuff. Plan on creating some stuff that people actually care about. Get super niche. Then, yes, focus on an area that you're pretty comfortable in. I mean, it's not a random occurrence that if you look at the greatest podcasters in the world, they had pretty good speaking voices. They were fairly comfortable speaking into a microphone. The ones that are the best bloggers in the world are okay writers. The ones that are great at video like being on camera. So if let's say, find the one that you feel the most comfortable at, and see if we can build a platform out of that. So that's the possibility. The second thing is, let's just say you have a really good story to share. It's the written word, but you are not comfortable at all in your writing. Just so you know, I mean, even the smallest of small businesses, they hire editors. They work with lots of editors and people to help them. There's so much help out there. Go into any of your favorite magazines, go to the masthead, and look at all the contributing writers and contributing editors that actually don't work for that magazine, but they do different parts. So let's say if you're doing something on auto, go to one of your local dealer magazines and look at some of the editors. Reach out to them. They're more than willing to help you. They want work. They're looking for work, and they probably don't work full-time for the magazine, because most magazines can't afford to hire editors full-time. So they outsource. They contract out. So just start there. So get the raw content. And that's what we talk about when you're interviewing like a CEO. It's like, if you need content from the CEO, don't send them an email and say, oh, I need 500 words and it has to be on this topic, and make sure you put in some keywords. They're never going to do it. They don't. Yeah. So what are you going to do? Go interview them. Get the raw content, and then have an editor take that raw content and make a story out of it. And maybe you do the same thing. Maybe you're going to write down all your questions, and then you're going to talk to let's say low-level video. Just get the raw content. Do it over a microphone, in your iPhone, whatever the case is. Get down the raw content, then just give it to an editor and say, I think I've got 20 stories here. Can you edit those down? Sure, done. They just need the raw content.
And it's
So you have the knowledge.
One-time investment.
One-time investment. You have the knowledge. Is that you just recorded 3 hours of stuff while you were traveling in your car in between sales calls, and now you've got 6 months of content set. And yes, do you have to pay a little bit? Sure, but what's the value of your time?
Oh, long term, and it's long term too. It just keeps giving back.
Exactly. That
was good, Joe. Listen. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time. I know you got to get rolling. A guy like you probably keeps it moving. Where can those checking us out right now get more from you, and where would you like them to go?
Yeah, I mean, you can find stuff about me on joepulizzi.com. My last book was called Epic Content Marketing, but for this audience specifically, my new book is perfect. It's called Content Inc. It's out September 2015. It's how an entrepreneur, small business salesperson with no resources can build a media empire. We go step by step through it. They'll love it. And I think it's already up on Amazon.com. You can pre-order it, but it's called Content Inc.
Oh, definitely. I'm on that. I will link to that in the show notes, plus your podcast, because I definitely want to get them to check
that's right.
out.
Yeah, I forgot. I got the Content Inc. podcast. I got This Old Market. You know what? There's all kinds of stuff.
Bro, I'm
just
loving
type in Joe Pulizzi. You'll find something that I'm doing.
I'm loving that. The 5-6 minute bits too. Like that just keeps moving, man. That's great.
But that's a good reminder to the people listening to this. It literally takes me about 30 minutes a week to do those two.
Yep.
Yeah, it does it. Do I have to think about it a little bit to what we're going to put together? Yeah, but it's not. It's not. It doesn't cost me. It costs about $20 a month, as you know. Yep. You get a Liberated Syndicate account, and you're good to go. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. Okay, last, this is a quick one, and I'm gonna steal from you before you go. What are you reading, or you're jamming on Audible? What do you got now? What are you reading?
Man, it's what I'm listening to on Audible. I've been listening to WTF from Mark Maron recently, the most recently. For writing. For a really good writing book, Everybody Writes by Ann Handley is really good. So if you're a terrible writer and you want to learn like how can I be a better writer specifically for marketing, Everybody Writes is a great book. So I highly recommend that. There's another one called Buyer Personas that's to help you like figure out who your audience is. That's by Adele Ravella. Really, really good book specific for this audience. Both of those will help.
Awesome, bro. Man, thank you so much, Joe. Good luck with everything, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Bye. And I hope that you found some value in that. Again, that was Joe Pulizzi. All of his contact, the links to, the podcast, the book, the other book, everything. I'm going to make sure that those are in the show notes, which will be at www.thedealerplaybook.com/55. I believe that is. Wow, 55, session 55. Couldn't get there without you. If you really want to help us out, throw us a bone. If you haven't, head over to iTunes and knock a quick review out. It takes only seconds and it helps. And, they don't go unnoticed. Definitely would really appreciate that love. So again, get all the notes, www.dealerplaybook.com/55, and make sure you're here next time. Thanks for being here.